Hi, this is Elisa with XYZ Wellness, and I'm here today to share with you a gentle yoga practice. It's going to be a short practice for when you just have a little bit of time and you want to get some moving and start feeling pretty good. We'll start out in the easy seated position, so any position that feels good for you. And I invite you to maybe sit up on a block or a bolster, or maybe even a folded up blanket. Anything that can give you a little lift so that the hips are higher than the knees. That can be a nice way to lift and lengthen through the spine and also help prevent some rounding in the low back. So I invite you once again to find that position any way that feels good, so the legs can be crossed or you could bend the knees, whatever makes you happiest. And then coming into that position, we'll allow the eyes to close, or maybe just letting the gaze come down towards the floor. So whatever feels most comfortable, and then beginning to come to the breath. So we'll just start to have an awareness of the breath without trying to change it or shape it in any way. We might just check in and notice if the breath is easy or if it's labored. Does it get stuck anywhere? And then maybe noticing the quality of the breath. If we're noticing it maybe in one part of the body over another, so it could be in the belly or the nose, maybe in the chest. So just making these observations without any types of judgments at all. Just continuing to watch the breath, feeling the places that it flows in and out of the body. And in yoga, we like to breathe in and out through the nose. That can be very soothing to the central nervous system. But if we find that maybe we have a cold or anything like that, and our breath is a little difficult in and out through the nose, then just finding a comfortable natural breath. The most important thing is to allow the breath to lead all of our poses, to lead our practice. So having brought some awareness to the breath, we'll check in with the body. First, feeling any places on our body that are being held by the earth. So that could be our feet or our legs. And if we're sitting up on a support, noticing that underneath our bottoms as well. And sitting up just a little bit taller, noticing if we're leaning to one side or another, or maybe forward or back. And as best as we can, sitting up very tall, creating a straight line from our tailbone all the way to the top of the head. So letting that crown of the head reach towards the sky as if we had a string coming out of the top of the head, lifting us just a little bit taller. We'll take a few more breaths here as we allow each in-breath to create some space. Space in the body and space in the mind. Space in the heart. And then allowing each out-breath as a way to let go and release. Letting go of any old ideas that no longer serve us. Old habits. Letting go of expectations. Competition and judgments. We'll take just a few more rounds of breath here. Letting our awareness come back to that breath. And noticing if maybe the breath has changed in any way since we've been starting. Maybe it's growing a little longer or a little deeper. And then as you're ready, allowing those eyes to open, we'll arrive in the room. So taking in the light and still sitting up very tall in our seat. We'll start to flow with the breath. So inhaling, sweeping those arms wide and overhead. And then exhaling, hands down into the heart. Inhaling. And then exhaling. And as we're flowing, matching your breath to your movements, if there's any discomfort in the shoulders, we can adjust that range of motion. So finding what feels good to you. Remembering that this is your yoga practice, so customizing it in any way that feels good to you. So if this sweeping motion isn't doing it for you today, then adjusting those arms. Arms are always optional. Remembering our most important part of our entire practice is the breath. So as long as we're breathing, we're doing yoga. We're practicing our yoga. So we'll do just one more round after this one. And then getting ready to add in a little bit of twist for the spine. We'll inhale again, maybe bringing those arms overhead if that feels appropriate. And exhaling, twisting to one side. Letting that be a nice, easy twist. And then we'll come back to the middle on our in-breath and exhaling over to the other side. So as we're moving here, we can either keep that sweeping motion, or we could maybe bring the hands to the shoulders and just gently going from one side to the other. Nice, easy movement. We're not trying to force anything to happen here. We're just creating a little bit of rotation through the torso, and then twisting, creating some flexibility from the tailbone all the way up to the head and neck. Remembering, just finding what feels good to you as we're flowing here. We'll do just one more and one to the other side. And then coming back to center, we'll bring arms down alongside the body. If we're up on a support, we can lift and move that off to the side, setting our block over. And coming onto hands and knees. So we're getting ready to come into tabletop. We could place our blanket under our knees if we needed a little extra cushioning, or we could be directly on the mat. We could double up that mat as well. And we'll place hands directly underneath the shoulders, spreading those fingertips wide. If we have any wrist discomfort, making fists for wrists. And knees are underneath our hips. So we'll inhale, letting the tailbone lift, belly drop as we extend forward into cow pose. And then thinking about that same motion, we'll start down at the tailbone, traveling one vertebra at a time as we bring chin in towards the chest and belly button in towards the spine into cat pose. And then inhaling, reversing that. So we're moving really slowly here, but I invite you to find the pace that matches your breath. Allowing our sense of mindfulness and attentiveness to lead us here. So rather than just allowing the body to move with momentum, we're moving with the muscles, allowing the bones and the muscles to lead this motion as we start down at the tailbone for each of these two postures, and then traveling one vertebra at a time all the way up to the head. Right now we're creating two other ranges of motion, two other planes of motion as we're coming through flexion and extension. And actually we're moving in this plane here, front to back. And really exaggerating this movement. So as we push the floor away from us in cat pose, we're really pushing, creating as much space between the vertebrae as we can. And we'll do just one more round of cat and cow. So after our next cat pose, we'll come into our tabletop. So coming back into a neutral place, somewhere between cat and cow. We can imagine that we have a glass of water on our low back. So we want to envision that glass of water staying there. It's nice and stable. We'll draw the belly in towards the spine. And finding that table position, we'll start to come to a spinal balance. So we'll inhale the right arm out in front of us, still keeping that low back level, that glass of water from spilling. We'll exhale down, switching sides. Inhaling that left arm out in front of the body, thumb can be towards the sky. And then exhaling, finding our stability. We'll start to move with the breath. Every time we inhale, we'll extend. And exhaling down. Inhaling, allowing the core to be stable. And exhaling down. And we can start to either stay here with just the arm, or we could add the opposite leg, creating a little bit more of a balance challenge for the core. And then exhaling down. When we extend opposite arm and leg, we're not only hard to keep our balance with the upper body, but now the lower body as well. And to do that, we have to engage all those muscles of our core. So not just the belly, which is what we tend to think of when it comes to core, the abdominals, but also the low back, the hips, and the glutes. And as we extend that leg, if we have that leg lifted, toes are pointing down towards the floor, inner thighs are drawing in. But remember, if we'd like, we could stay with arms, or we could do legs, or we can do opposite arm and leg. And not just lifting up, but lifting out. Imagining we're being pulled in opposite directions. We'll do one more time on each side. Really lengthening, strengthening the entire spine. And then coming back into that neutral position, maybe going through cat and cow just a couple times, thanking the spine for all that hard work, balancing, lengthening, massaging that spine out. And then we can bring big toes to touch. Knees can be wide or they can be narrow, and we'll sit the hips back towards our heels, coming into child's pose. So child's pose is a great place to come to rest. And we can come into child's pose anytime we need to. So never needing permission to rest. We'll let the hips sink down towards the heels, and arms can be extended in front of the body. Or if our forehead's not making it all the way down to the mat, we can bring our hands underneath the forehead, or maybe back around the heels. So your choice, choosing any of those options for your child's pose as we allow the body to rest, checking in with the body. And even though this is a pose of rest, for some people it may be uncomfortable for the knees or the ankles. So if you need a blanket underneath the knees or between the legs, just choosing that. Always listen to what your body is saying. We'll take another breath or two here. Maybe rocking the brow along the mat. So we can just rock that brow, releasing any tension or tightness in the forehead, massaging out the place of our third eye, the place of our intuition and inner wisdom, inner knowledge. And slowly coming back to center, a place of stillness with that head and neck. If we have our hands back around the feet or even closer to the body, we'll extend them long now, crawling those fingertips forward, and we'll spread the fingers into starfish hands. We're setting up for our first downward facing dog, and we'll bring knees back in line with the hips if they were wide, and curling the toes under to lift our hips into our first downward dog. So setting up for this first downward dog, we can keep our knees very bent. That helps us to really lengthen the spine, lift those hips a little higher. Hands are about shoulder width apart, and feet are hip distance apart. We might choose to stay here with both knees really deeply bent, or we can start to walk our dog, straightening one knee while we bend the other, lifting through the heel, and then just slowly switching from side to side, waking up the bottoms of the feet. You might notice that in the ankles or the calves, and just noticing those things and not making any judgments about them. Only moving in any way that feels good right now. So you might notice the ankles making some noise, or the knees making a little bit of music. And then coming up on the tippy toes, we'll lift both heels off the mat and exhale to lower them a little bit closer to the mat, pushing that floor away from us. Chest is reaching back for the legs. And inhaling, we'll look to the hands. Exhaling, we'll take a walk all the way to the top of our mats, coming into forward fold. Our feet are about hip distance apart. And if we want to check that, we can place both of our fists between our feet. So the feet should be about 2 fist distance apart. Knees are really bent once again. We'll shake out that head and neck, releasing any tension or tightness. trace the floor. So just swaying like a rag doll. We can either let those fingers and arms dangle, or we could take hands to opposite elbows, framing the head with our arms. And inhaling, we'll release the hands down to the mat. And deeply bending our knees, we're getting ready to come into a reverse swan dive. So whenever we do our reverse swan dive, we want to make sure we have a strong, straight core. So drawing navel to spine, thinking about those corset muscles around the belly. Deeply bending the knees, and then inhaling with that strong, straight spine, coming to stand in mountain pose. Hands are at the heart. So anytime we come into mountain pose, it's a good place to check in as well. So we'll make sure our feet are about hip bone distance apart. All 10 toes are facing towards the same direction, facing the front. And our gaze can come out over the tops of the fingers. If it feels good, we can bring our arms down alongside the body. Palms are facing front, fingertips are really reaching down, drawing shoulders away from the ears, and maybe closing the eyes once again, letting our attention turn inward. So feeling that sense of stability as we root down through the feet, and then grow a little taller. So it's a little bit of polarity, duality, as the feet root down and the top of the head reaches up. And then feeling as though we're as confident and as proud as a mountain. From here, we're going to come into a modified sun salutation. So we'll soften the bend in the knees. Inhale, moving arms out in the sky, up and overhead. And as we exhale, we'll hinge forward, coming into our forward fold once again. This time, as we inhale, we'll come to a flat back, still keeping a bend in our knees. And hands can come to our blocks or maybe to our shins as we extend from tailbone to the crown of the head, drawing belly button towards the spine. Exhaling, we'll come into a forward fold, and we'll take a step back with our right foot, lowering that knee down to the mat. We can cushion that knee if we need to. And then coming into a kneeling lunge with the left knee over the ankle, drawing shoulders down from the ears. Bringing hands to frame that front foot, we'll take a step back with that left foot, coming back into our child's pose, lengthening through the spine. On our next inhale, we'll come forward either into that tabletop or into kneeling plank, stacking shoulders above the wrist. Belly button is drawing in, keeping that sense of a plank from the shoulders, or actually from the head, down to the knees. As we exhale, we'll lower with control, hugging elbows in towards the body, coming into a position on the floor. We're getting ready to come into a mini back bend. So maybe just allowing the fingertips next to the shoulders, so that way we're using very little upper body strength as far as our arms. We'll use just the lower back to lift into our baby cobra pose. Still drawing shoulders down from the ears, hugging them in towards each other. And then exhaling, forehead to the mat. And now we'll bring palms all the way down. We're going to use that strong upper body to inhale, pushing the floor away, top of a push-up. Exhaling back into child's pose. On our next inhale, we'll step forward with that right foot. So now we're lunging on the other side. Right knee and ankle are in line with each other. And then we'll curl those left toes under, lifting the knee off the mat, coming into a runner's lunge. And on our next inhale, we'll take a step or as many steps as it takes to come to the top of our mat, back into forward fold. Crown of the head reaching towards the ground. Inhale into that flat back, looking down to the ground and drawing belly button in towards the spine. Exhaling, forward fold. Drawing the belly button in, we'll inhale, big in-breath, coming to mountain, and exhaling, sitting our hips back and down into chair pose. So we'll try that on the other side. Big breath in, exhaling, hinging deeply, bending those knees. We'll inhale to that flat back, monkey pose, drawing shoulders in towards each other. Exhaling, hands to the ground. And this time we'll step the left foot back. lowering the knee down, uncurling those toes. Maybe inhaling the arms to the sky this time. If not, hands could still be on the floor or on our blocks. And then bringing hands back down. We'll step the right foot back to meet the left, lowering into child's pose. Taking one big breath here and letting it out. And inhaling, coming forward to our kneeling plank, drawing belly button in towards the back. Exhaling, slow and controlled into that lowering position, coming down to the floor. Inhaling halfway into a baby cobra pose here. So not trying to push the entire upper body away, shoulders are down. And exhaling, forehead back down. Inhaling to push up. Exhaling back. One big breath here. And then as we inhale, we'll step that left foot forward. So we're lunging on the other side once again, extending the heart forward, letting our gaze be easy. And then maybe bringing arms up and overhead. And then to the heart. Lowering hands back down to the ground. We'll curl our right toes under, lifting that rear knee off the mat. Getting ready to take off as if we are about to hear the starting gun. And then big step into forward fold. Keeping those knees soft. Inhaling, monkey pose. Exhaling, top of the head to the ground. And then big sweeping inhale. Hands together. Exhaling, finding our chair pose. So big inhale up, bringing hands back to the heart. We'll check in with the body after those modified sun salutations. And then just a little bit of balance. So we always want to do balance in our yoga practice and have balance in our lives as well. So one thing we can do for our balance is our tree pose. So first I'll show you a gentle version of tree. We can come into a stance with, if you're mirroring me, it would be the right foot. And we'll find some support. So finding first that sense of our mountain pose, rooting down through the outside corners of each of our feet. So it's the big toe and the baby toe, as well as the inner and outer edge of each foot. Lifting through the arches, feeling that little bit of lift from the ground. And then we can take that left heel and place it on the right ankle. Hands could be at the heart, or we could grow those branches as we hug everything towards the midline. So thinking about lifting up, drawing energy from the earth through those roots that we've created, and then drawing inner thighs together and finding a place for the arms, so maybe growing those branches. And then we'll try that on the other side. So we can come to that low tree on the other side. So creating that sense of our roots, our trunk, the roots are going out in all directions. Right heel can come to the left ankle. And then again, sensing that drawing up from the earth, drawing energy up from the earth as we draw everything to the midline as well. And maybe going those branches. It's a beautiful day. So imagining the sunshine on those branches. And then whenever you're ready, we can exhale and exit that pose. So anytime we balance, not feeling like you need to stay there any length of time, not worrying about if you fall over. And if you do fall over, that's okay. We fall over in life. So if we fall over on our yoga mats, that's okay. We just dust ourselves off and try it again. So I invite you to either try what we just did with the low tree, or if you'd like, you can bring your foot to the calf or maybe to the thigh. So if we bring our foot to the thigh, that can make it a little challenging, especially if we have slippery yoga tights on. But as best as we can, we'll draw inner thigh and foot together. And we just want to avoid putting any pressure on the knee. So not putting the foot on the knee. Remember, we can grow those branches. We're still drawing everything towards the midline. And then exiting that pose. Remembering if we bobble a little, that's okay. It just means we're trying really hard. So we'll find a sense of center and we'll try the other side. So again, maybe the low tree, maybe foot on calf, or maybe we'll try the thigh. So first, setting up and then hugging that foot and the inner thigh together, and this side is a little more challenging for me. So letting go of those expectations and competition and not letting our ego make those decisions for us. So if it feels better with a foot on the calf or even on the ankle, then choosing that. Remembering there's no right or wrong. It's just what feels good today. We'll take a big breath in and then exiting that pose whenever you're ready. And my favorite thing after balance is to just let go of any of that tension we created, so we can swing our arms like a bored 5-year-old, or we can circle those hips, maybe shaking out the arms or the legs, always listening to your body and what it's saying, but letting go of any tension we might have created that we don't need. So we'll do that just a couple times. And again, remember we can shake out the arms and the legs. That can be very therapeutic. It helps us let go of any tension or tightness we've created. And then getting ready to come down onto our mats. We'll come back to the front of our mats, placing those feet hip-bone distance apart. Taking a big breath in. And then exhaling really deeply, hinging forward, bending those knees, letting the top of the head come down towards the floor, and we'll walk our knees out behind us, coming onto our bottoms and extending our legs in front of us. So we're coming into staff pose, and staff pose is really where it got its name, is the length in our spine. So we're thinking about that length, not worrying so much about how far down we get. So for our staff pose, if we'd like, we could sit up on our block once again, or our blanket, or we can be flat on the mat. But remembering that when we lift our hips a little higher than the knees, it can be very helpful for the low back. So maybe choosing just for today to sit up on a little bit something to help get that extra lift. And we'll spread the toes wide. So really strengthening the bottoms of the feet and the toes. And if there's any tightness in the back of our knees, we could add another block or a bend in our knees. So doing what's appropriate for you for this day. We'll sit up extra tall, relaxing the shoulders. And then from here, we'll inhale, remembering we always want to inhale to lengthen the spine. And as we exhale, we can come forward to any degree. So not worrying about getting all the way down, just extending through the heart. If we have a strap, we could place that strap around the feet. Maybe using that to help bring the feet a little bit closer to us, but not worrying about, again, how far we get. It's really about the quality of our movement, making sure the breath is still leading what we're doing. So we'll inhale here, maybe to lift and lengthen out of the pose a little bit, and then using our exhale or our sinking breath to come forward to whatever degree, remembering there's no right or wrong. And then slowly inhaling, we'll come back up into our seated position, and then bending through our knees. If we're on a block or any other support, we'll set it off to the side, and then bringing our hands behind us. We'll push the palms of the hands down into the mat, coming into a little bit of a back bend. So sending our attention to a place along the wall, so maybe between the wall and the ceiling, not worrying about craning the neck back in any way. And then we can just let both knees come to one side, and then the other side. A little bit of a windshield wiper motion with the knees. And that motion can be as fast or as slow as feels good to you. We'll do just one more time in each direction. And coming back to center. Now we'll bend through our knees a little deeper and hold on to one of our legs, using that leg as a handle to come onto our backs. We'll bring one knee and the other knee into the chest, maybe rocking them around so we can hold on behind the thighs or at the shins. We could stay still if that feels better, if there's any discomfort on the spine. And then bringing feet down to the mat. We'll let our hands come down alongside the body, walking our feet in towards our glutes, and we'll set up for a bridge pose. So always making sure we have a safe space under the neck. We always want to protect the neck. We'll draw the belly button in towards the spine and start to slowly notice that the hips are lifting and the tailbone's lifting off the mat. And then very slowly, one vertebra at a time, peeling off the mat, coming into bridge pose. And we'll draw inner thighs towards each other, feeling that lift as we push down through the feet. So pushing down through the feet really activates the backs of our legs, strengthening the back of the body as we stretch out the front of the body, stretching out the torso and the hip flexors. And then as we exhale, lower one vertebra at a time, all the way down to the mat, letting that spine neutralize. And we'll do one more bridge pose. So again, slowly peeling first the tailbone, the hips, and one vertebra at a time. As we create that straight line from knees down to shoulders. And maybe interlacing the fingers underneath the bottom if that feels okay. Or we could crawl the shoulders just a little deeper under the body. Your choice. So big back bend here in this bridge pose as we push down through the heels, lifting the glutes, lifting the hips. And then releasing those hands if we've interlaced them, and then slowly rolling all the way down onto our mats. Again, hugging one knee and then the other in towards our chest. Giving them a little rock, maybe circling the knees if that feels good. And then we'll hug both knees into our chest, extending the right leg long. We're getting ready to come into a twist. So we'll take that left knee across the body, and we can either leave the right leg long, or we can bend the right knee so that it meets the left, coming into a really easy twist as we're coming close to the end of our practice. And either choosing to look out towards the left hand or any other place that feels good on the neck. We'll let the body start to slow down a little bit. Feeling that breath slow down as well. And then getting ready to come to the other side, we'll bring both knees to the center. Again, maybe hugging them in, rocking them around. And then we'll extend that left leg long, taking the right knee towards the floor. And we could either put a block under that knee, or we could bring the left knee to meet it. Letting our gaze go out towards that left hand. Making sure the breath is nice and easy. Remembering we can adjust our posture in any way if we notice that we're holding the breath or if it's getting choppy. We'll take just a couple more breaths right here. And coming back to center. We can either bring feet down to the mat or maybe come into a happy baby. Either holding on behind the thighs or the calves, or if we have it in our practice today, we could reach for the outsides of our feet, pulling those knees down outside the body. And if it feels okay, rocking side to side like a happy baby, or if that causes any discomfort at all on the spine, then staying still like a dead bug. So your choice. And since we are getting close to the end of our practice, if there's any other pose or any other movement your body needs, then offering your body that. Just the last little bit of movement, last little bit of adjustment for your body. And as you're ready, we can slowly make our way into any position for Shavasana. So we could have the knees bent to release the low back a little bit, or we could extend the legs, letting the feet be wider than the body. And arms can come out alongside the body with the palms facing up in a gesture of receiving. And we'll just begin to find a place of ease as we surrender the weight of the body into the mat. Always remembering that Shavasana is the most important part of our practice. This is the time when we allow the body to integrate all the hard work that we've done. So allowing the eyes to close and the gaze to turn inward. And finding your comfortable position as we let go of any tension or tightness that we're still holding on to. Scanning the body. And if you find any place that feels like it's still gripping or holding, then just releasing, using the breath to let go. So we'll stay here for just as long as feels good to you. Letting the breath become more natural. So I invite you to stay here just as long as feels good, or if you're limited on time or ready, we can begin to start to wiggle fingers and toes, inviting some movement back into the body, maybe rolling through the ankles and the wrists, maybe stretching along. And bending through the knees, we'll turn to one side, coming into baby pose. Taking a moment to pause right here. And using the hands to help us lift up, coming to an easy seat. So any seated position that feels good to you. Again, you may choose to sit up on a bolster or a block or a blanket. And then checking our posture, making we're sitting up very tall, drawing shoulders down from the ears. You might even inhale, hugging them up towards the ears, shrugging them up, and then exhale them down. You can try that one more time. Inhaling, shrugging the shoulders, exhaling them down. And bringing hands together at the heart. Taking a moment in gratitude towards yourself for taking this time, for taking care of yourself, and being grateful for this body on this mat, on this day. The light within me salutes the light within you. Namaste. Thank you so much for taking the time to practice with me today. I wish you an absolutely wonderful day. Namaste.